3 weeks ago, War of Will took down the second jewel of the Triple Crown and earned a classic win for trainer Mark Cassie.
War of Will won the Preakness!
But coming back in 3 weeks to find repeat success at Big Sandy will be no easy task for the Preakness champion. Waiting for him in the Big Apple are a pair of local runners with something to prove.
Tax is in tight toward the inside. Tax does it. It is Tacitus in the Wood Memorial.
And Master Fencer, a Japanese import coming off a huge race in Louisville. Will War of Will be able to capture the third leg of the Triple Crown? Or will a new face take home the trophy and score in the Test of the Champion? This is the Belmont Handicappers Preview Show.
And welcome to the Belmont Stakes Day Preview Show here on TVG, live from Belmont Park in New York as we get set for that third jewel of the Triple Crown on Saturday. I'm Dave Weaver, joined by Caton Bredar. We'll have Scott Hazelton and Gabby Gaudet as well. Triple Crown season, 2 legs down, 1 leg to go. So much excitement here at Belmont.
You know, such a long and grueling road packed into such a short period of time in terms of excitement, in terms of handicapping challenges. And I think this year, while very different in terms of the depth of the field, is not lacking in star power or intrigue, or I think value and gambling opportunities as well. I am so excited, but not the least of which the reason is that this race I actually do better in than some of the other legs of the Triple Crown.
So many years where we have had that opportunity lately for a Triple Crown winner. Not the case this year. We don't have the Derby winner. We do have the Preakness winner, War of Will, despite his win in the Preakness, not the morning line favorite.
The only horse to compete in all 3 legs of the series, and I think that's a testament to his stamina, his grit and determination. He's a bit of a throwback horse, and also the training job that the Cassie barn has done with him to get him to this point. I'm excited to see him. He'll be one of the key contenders in here, but the fresh horses may have something to say about it before all is said and done.
He's the only one that was in the Derby and Preakness that is here, but there were 4 horses that were in the Derby that skipped the Preakness, and that has been a pretty good trend of late. Since 2000, essentially half of the years have been won by a horse that skipped the Preakness, that was in the Derby, most recently Taprit and Creator.
And Todd Pletcher represented with 2 horses in this year's Belmont. The most recent beneficiary of that with Taprit, but of course Palace Malice as well, has said, you know, he feels there is a real benefit to bringing a fresh horse here for the 1.5-mile test.
And then there's another strategy that trainers use, and that's skip the Derby and the Preakness. Remember Totalist back in 2014 that squashed California Chrome's Triple Crown hopes, and there are horses like that this year, 3 of them that were not in either of the Triple Crown races thus far, including Intrepid Heart, Jovia, and Sir Winston's a really interesting one that we'll talk about later.
The other Cassie horse. Peter Pan, of course, has been a pretty significant stepping stone, but it's just having the right horse.
All right, we have 2 reporters on the scene here on this show. We'll start by going to Scott Hazelton. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Caton. And we'll start with Tax, a horse that underperformed in the Kentucky Derby for Danny Gargan. He's since regrouped, skipping the Preakness Stakes. And there was some miscommunication in the reporting about a recent workout. And Danny was quoted as saying that it was a poor workout. He said that that was not the case. Instead, what he talked about was the fact that the horse stepped on a stone and bruised his foot. And here's Danny on Tax and that said foot.
It wasn't a workout. It was, you know, when he walked back and he stepped on that stone, he had the little bruise in his foot was more concerning than the workout. That was just kind of a misprint type thing. It wasn't so much the workout. He worked, you know, obviously everybody watched it. It wasn't a bad workout at all. He actually galloped out really good, which he always does. When he got back here, we come a long way home, and he stepped on a rock because he's a little rambunctious, and he had a little stone bruise in his foot, and as you can see, he has glue-ons now, and we fixed that. So as long as he's 100%, we'll run.
And it's his right front hoof that had that stone bruise in which Danny is talking about. Also part of the discussion since the Preakness Stakes has been Master Fencer. He was at Keeneland. He came up here early. He's had 2 workouts over this track. We'll talk about his most recent in just a second. But his first workout, there was a stumble, and it created a lot of chatter, but that's now behind him following his workout yesterday morning under Julien Leparoux.
So yeah, we went to the training track first, jog, half a mile, and then got up once around. We went after that to the gate. We stood in the gate for a little bit, which is good. It's always been very nice in there. And then we went to the main track and breezed 5.8. Feel like stronger from before the Derby. He's still not very good at switching lead, but it's something they don't really do there in Japan. So it's kind of tough for to teach them right away. But hopefully in the race he does it and go from there. Yeah.
And Julian mentioned that the lack of ability in switching leads, which he said is not a big deal, is part of the reason why he stumbled in that first workout here at Belmont Park, which Julian was not aboard for. His flight was canceled out of Kentucky because of storms in the area, but that is a strong point to be made on that workout if people continue to reference it. You can see the lack of success and really the lack of chances that these horses have had when coming from overseas. Go and Go did it back in 1990 for Dermot Weld. He then was put with D. Wayne Lucas, ran 3 races, ran against some good horses, including In Excess, did Go and Go, but we'll see if Master Fencer can get this done for Japan. They've taken their shots. They've come here. They've had to skip with horses such as Casino Drive, but it certainly would be a big, big accomplishment if they're able to take down the Grade 1 Belmont Stakes with Master Fencer. As far as the weather, it's going to be 80 degrees. We hopefully mostly cloudy because it is warm right now in Elmont, New York. So if we can get as much cloud cover as possible, we would be a lot happier. And I'm sure that the folks in attendance here at Belmont Park will be as well. Dave, Caton, I'm sticking to the forecast. I'm not going to try to be Matt Carothers. He's the weather guy. I'm not going to give you my own forecast. I'm just going with what the TVG Uber Doppler is giving us, and that's 80 degrees and partly cloudy.
Not going to argue with that weather if we can get it. It's expecting to be beautiful, and today it is as well. Kind of the calm before the storm. They're getting everything ready for what's going to be a packed house on Saturday.
Yeah, and in terms of packed, we're packed with quality as well from top to bottom. A lot of opportunities, and I think given the weather conditions and the forecast, no real excuses, which is always wonderful too.
The Belmont goes as race number 11, but that's just one of the many Grade 1 races on tap. To talk about that, let's go to Gabby Gaudet.
Dave, thank you so much. And yes, it's an incredible day of racing, that's for sure. Of course, all eyes will be on the third leg of the Triple Crown, the Belmont Stakes. But there is so much going on throughout the card. There's going to be 10 stakes races in total. There's 9 graded stakes races and then 8 grade 1s, just to whet the appetite, so to speak. And a lot of talk has been about the Grade 1 Met Mile. This is arguably the best race on the card. We'll get more into that in just a little bit. But like I said, 10 stakes races, 9 graded, 8 grade 1s. And in terms of the wagering opportunities, you have so many options throughout the day. We'll start it off with the early pick 5. That's going to start off in race 1. That's a $500,000 guarantee. The sequence does kick off in race 1. That's an allowance race. The Easy Goer, the Just a Game with Rushing Fall, and the Octon Fibs with Midnight Bisou at even money on the morning line. Those races are all included in that early pick 5. The pick 6 looks incredibly challenging too. Good luck approaching that on a limited bankroll, guys, because we're talking about the Jaipur, the Acorn, the Woody Stevens, Met Mile, Manhattan, and then it all caps off in the Belmont. That's a $500,000 guarantee, $1.5 million guarantee in the pick 4 as well.
A $2 pick 6 on Saturday, and then they're going to have a 20-cent two-day wager, a pick 6. 3 races Friday, 3 races Saturday. So don't get those two confused. Different betting amounts.
Yeah, and you have opportunity as well through the money back special to hedge your bets a little bit. And there's going to be a lot of hedging going on Saturday too.
Take a look at what happens here on both Friday and Saturday. Money back special throughout the Belmont Stakes weekend. First $10 win wager at tvg.com. You'll get your money back if you finish second or third on races that have at least 8 runners, which will be most of the races on Friday and Saturday. Let's dive into the field now for the Belmont Stakes, and we'll start with the big long shot that has drawn the inside And that one is coming off a stakes win last time out. Jovia for trainer Greg Sacco.
This colt by Shanghai Bobby's going to get a real class test today. The toughest to date was the Wood Memorial, where he was beaten 13 lengths, but did have a troubled trip that day. I don't think that was a fair indication of what he's capable of. He has a little tactical speed, which is at a premium in the Belmont Stakes this year, and with that inside post, I imagine will be hitting the ground running, so to speak, under Jose Lascano.
He has a stakes win to his credit, and that's something that a lot of the horses in this field cannot say, including the number 2 horse, Everfast, who has not won a stake. He only has a maiden win, but boy, did he show up for Dale Romans last time out in the Preakness as a big outsider. He came on and finished second behind War of Will under a masterful ride by Joel Rosario. Rosario's gone elsewhere. He's going to be riding Intrepid Heart, so that actually he's going to be riding Sir Winston, so that's going to put Luis Saez on Everfast.
And Dale knows how to get these horses ready for big races, though he has never won the Belmont Stakes. He's come close several times. Best finish was 3rd. You sure think distance is going to help the son of Take Charge Indy, but he is only 1 for 11. To me, he's a bit of a play underneath.
The only Japanese horse to ever hit the board in the Belmont Stakes was Lonnie back in 2016. Can Master Fencer maybe even improve on that 3rd place finish? The way that he was just gobbling up the ground at Churchill in the Kentucky Derby was amazing to see. He went from last to 7th, eventually moved up to 6th through the disqualification of Maximum Security. And you go back and you look at the first 2 starts of his career in Japan, he debuted at 1.25 miles. If anybody wants this 1.5 mile distance, it's Master Fencer.
You know, he's an exotics contender in my mind. He runs better than he trains. I think it's safe to say, and you'll hear a lot of buzz about him not switching leads or perhaps not looking as flashy in his morning training as some of the other horses. I don't think it matters. He's all grit and has danced every dance and keeps on going. I'm going to use him.
Not just an exotic contender for me. He's a win contender if you're looking at that pick 4. Let's talk about the number 4 horse, Tax. Irad Ortiz taking over for the first time after finishing 15th, placed 14th in the Kentucky Derby. You know, just didn't have it that day, but he was a winner of the Grade 3 Withers at Aqueduct. Can he rebound here for Danny Gargan?
I'm willing to forgive the Derby. Maybe he didn't care for the slop, but I still wonder if the quality of the Withers or the Wood Memorial is quite on par with what he's facing in here. And I also wonder whether the 1.5 miles is really going to be his best distance. Still have to give credit to a horse who outside of the Derby has been right there.
What a claim for $50,000 out of the maiden win back in October. Here he is, a contender for the Belmont Stakes. Now, Bourbon War was a big buzz horse for a lot of gamblers out there in the Preakness Stakes. 12-1 on the morning line, went off at 5-1, and simply just did not fire his best shot. We have seen him finish very strong in his race to the Gulfstream Park, but he just didn't seem to have that punch in the Preakness.
That's what I wonder, what happened there, because I forgive the Florida Derby 4th place finish where he had no pace to run at and still was a pretty good 4th at that before that 2nd in the Fountain of Youth Stakes. Late runner might be up against it pace-wise, but he does get, I think, a key equipment change with the blinkers off. I think we'll see the true Bourbon War for Bourbon Lane Stable and partners here, and you get Mike Smith looking to become the first jockey in a while to win back-to-back Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, we got to go all the way back to that historical run by Secretariat in 1973 to find a rider that won in back-to-back years. Ron Turcotte did it with Riva Ridge and Secretariat. Mike Smith did it last year with Justify, with Irad going to Tax. Mike Smith is now available to ride Bourbon War for Mark Hinnig. We'll see if Mike can make it back-to-back Belmonts. Spin-off for Todd Pletcher and Javier Castellano. He's riding this one for the first time. A lot of jockey hopscotch going on in this race.
I don't think we should read too much into that. I think it's the way it's fallen the way of this Triple Crown series. Spinoff has a little tactical speed. Again, I think that's going to be an asset. The question is whether his performance in the Derby was due to the sloppy track or the distance or something else altogether. Before that, 2nd in the Louisiana Derby to By My Standards and an easy winner of Allowance Company going 1.40 miles. The son of Hard Spun gets his biggest test to date, but Todd Pletcher knows how to pick these spots for these Belmont horses, and Spinoff is training very nicely.
The distance, a big question here for Spinoff, but not so much for Sir Winston, who was a really good second last time out in the Grade 3 Peter Pan. Now the extra distance here figures to be right up his alley.
Not gonna lie, don't know what to do with this improving son of Awesome again. The distance shouldn't be any problem at all. His second was a good one in the Peter Pan, I thought. He does his best running coming from a little off the pace, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Joel Rosario put him into the race just a little bit sooner than has been the case in previous races, given the way the 1.5 miles tends to play here.
Over the years, can you think of a horse coming to the Belmont Stakes who's only raced 3 times? That's Intrepid Heart. Very lightly raced here for Todd Pletcher, and they're going to take a shot here in the Belmont Stakes with a very talented son of Tappet.
Yeah, and Tappet, a preeminent sire so far as Belmont Stakes winners are concerned, might lack his experience, but he doesn't lack for pedigree for this race. He's a half-brother to Commissioner, who was beaten just ahead in the Belmont Stakes. He adds blinkers. He did have an excuse, I thought, in the Peter Pan when he just didn't get away from the gate all that well, and still ran third. He was well beaten as the favorite, but before that did everything right. I think he's still learning, and it's still green, so I love the addition of blinkers here. I think you're going to see a big performance from Intrepid Heart.
We've talked about 4/5 of the field, and now it's time to talk about the 2 favorites who have drawn side by side the outside part of the starting gate. At the post position draw, everybody wondering, will War of Will pull off the hat trick of drawing the rail in all 3 Triple Crown races?
No, finally he gets the outside.
No, he gets post position number 9. 2-1 in the morning line. What a ride by Tyler Gaffleone in the Preakness, just biding his time, getting up the inside at the top of the lane and drawing off to win the Preakness. He draws just inside of Tacitus, so, you know, there's going to be some strategy used going into that turn.
And Mark Cassie's kind of pulled an audible in terms of his training of War of Will between the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes. Originally had considered breezing, but opted to take an easy route, thinking the bulk of the work was done. You know you have a fit horse the way he ran in the Preakness Stakes. It's interesting when you look at this list that you haven't seen a horse win the last 2 legs of the Triple Crown in recent times, but not very many have had the opportunity.
Right.
You just don't see that situation materialize very often. I'm going to put a little plug in for Capote way back in 1949. That was my grandfather, Ted Atkinson, second in the Derby, won the Preakness, won the Belmont, never won the Derby. I think you could see War of Will at least following in his hoofbeats so far as the last 2 jewels are concerned.
And then we'll move on to our morning line favorite, 3rd place finisher of the Kentucky Derby, Tacitus, who was the winner of the Grade 2 Wood, winner of the Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby. Bill Mott biding his time, skipping the Preakness. All systems go here for the Belmont Stakes for Tacitus.
Another son of Tappet, but out of the nice mare Close Hatches, who was campaigned by Bill Mott. He said it's even more special to have a horse out of her first foal. This colt was beaten just 3 1/4 lengths with arguably a troubled trip. He never really lost momentum, but he did have to find a way through and did not have a smooth go of it in the Derby. Still managed to finish beaten just 3 1/4 lengths for all of it. Before that, a string of 3 beautiful victories from Maiden to Tampa Bay Derby to Wood Memorial. Tacitus likely to be, if not favored, a very close choice in the top wagering. And he's also the horse that everybody's talking the most about, I think, so far is how he's trained and how he's looked coming into this race. But he has the right sire, to be sure. Tappet Offspring have dominated in the Belmont Stakes in recent times.
Fantastic. Back in 2014 when Tonalist got it all started, Crater and Tappet also winners, and even many hitting the board. This year, he'll be represented by Bourbon War, Intrepid Heart, and Tacitus. So 3 Tappets in this year's Belmont Stakes. So there is a look at your field, all 10 of them. I don't know if we can really put a line through too many of them.
I found it hard to say that there weren't more pros than cons for every contender in the field.
Not only are we going to get a top pick, but we're also going to get a money-back special play from everybody. We'll start with Scott Hazelton.
Yeah, and starting with Spinoff for my money-back special play, 2 layers to this. He looked amazing yesterday morning. Bounced on the track, bounced off the track on his way back to Todd Pletcher's barn, and he's out of Zaftig, who's out of Zoftig, a wonderful female line for the Wertheimers. His mare Zaftig won the Grade 1 Acorn over this surface. My top pick is the number 8 horse, Intrepid Heart. Todd Pletcher, you talked about the Tappets, and this is a half to Commissioner, who was second during his 3-year-old season in the Belmont Stakes. Matt Carothers, I have to claim foul on this entire show. A45 really? Is where we welcome you into the show.
I know, I'm
A45.
cold. I'm cold.
What's
off
taking
the
so
bench?
long to get to Matt?
I've been practicing, though. I've been warming up here in the studio. Scott, first of all, great analysis of the weather. It's going to be cloudy on Friday, but no rain, fast track 75. It's going to be 80 on Saturday. I like your weather prediction, and I like the fact you like Spinoff because he's going to win the Belmont. A lot of people going into the Triple Crown. You're going to have a different winner in each leg. That's the way it's going to play out, folks. This race screams price. I like to see that graphic that showed us horses that struggled in the Kentucky Derby, that skipped the Preakness, that won the Belmont. Palace Malice, an example of that. Spinoff, first two-turn race, dominant win at Tampa. Then the Louisiana Derby. Turned out to be a pretty good race, right? Country House 4th, War of Will 9th. How about Mr. Money 5th in the Louisiana Derby? He crushed in the Pat Day Mile undercard on Derby Day. I like Spinoff. I'm looking for horse to be forwardly placed at a price. Javier aboard. I like Spinoff 15 to 1 the line. Gabby, who wins the Belmont Saturday?
Whew. It's going to be tough. I really do think that you could make a case for really every runner in the race. But the money back special will start with first, and that's going to be Master Fencer. Look, I know there are a lot of people discounting this horse going into the Kentucky Derby because of the unorthodox ways that he was training and all that, but he actually outran it. I really think he's coming into the race well. I liked how he finished in the Kentucky Derby. He's going to be my money back play, but in terms of top pick, I'm going to go to Tacitus. He, to me, just seems like he's consistently running the fastest races. I liked his Kentucky Derby last time out, and guys, look at the pedigree. He's by Tappet. He's out of Close Hatches, who was a 5-time Grade 1 winner in her own right. So I'm going with the favorite, Tacitus, in the Belmont.
And she won the Ogden Phipps here at Belmont Park. So Tacitus, the morning line favorite. Where are you going to go, Caton?
Money back special to start with was almost as hard as picking my selection for this one because my top selection is a big price. So I went to War of Will, the horse who I don't know. I just feel like maybe he won't win, but he's good enough to win. Everything I handicap indicates he's going to win. So this gives me a little insurance. And for top pick, I went, took a page from Scott Hazelton's book and went with Intrepid Heart. I didn't see that coming from him. I thought we're going to get a good price. I'm hoping the fact that two of us have picked him isn't an indication that he's going to be shorter than I expect. But Intrepid Heart, I like the pedigree, I like the progression, I like the Pletcher factor, and I like the way the horse is coming into it with, I think, more in the tank than what we have seen to date.
I'm going to flip-flop what you did and use the long shot as a money back special play. Take a shot like Gabby did with Master Fencer from well off the pace. Should be able to at least roll into third to get my money back. And who knows, maybe he can roll by them all. 8 to 1 in the morning line. I think it's going to be a little bit higher than that. I think it's going to be maybe 12, 13 to 1. But War of Will, I had him in the Derby. I came back and had him again in the Preakness. I'm not going to jump ship now. I am sticking with War of Will. I think that makes me the only one to pick him as my top selection. We'll see if he gets bet from this 2 to 1 morning line, or maybe people don't give him credit for that Preakness victory. I'm certainly giving him a lot of credit. So War of Will, my top selection to win the Belmont Stakes. There's a wrap on the Belmont, but when we come back, we'll talk about many of the other races on the card on Saturday. 8 Grade 1 races. We'll analyze the undercard when we return.
And Frosted has gone on by and he has exploded. He is absolutely blowing his competition away. Oh my goodness, look at Frosted today. Frosted's 10 in front. Frosted is absolutely rubbed in the Met Mile. He was wrapped up.
What a mesmerizing run in the Met Mile from Frosted, and now he has covered 2 books of mares. He stands at Darley. And we thank them for presenting our on-site coverage here from Belmont Park. But everybody remembering that Met Mile. We're going to talk more about the Met Mile a little bit later on because that's deeper into the card. But we're going to go to Matt Carothers. He's going to start us out with our first Grade 1. Matt, we'll go in sequential order starting in race number 4.
Makes sense. The Grade 1 Just a Game. Doesn't it feel like Chad Brown wins every Grade 1 turf event on the East Coast? It's been that way for the last 5 years. Well, it pretty much has, but he hasn't really owned this race, the Just a Game, until recent years. He's won this race twice. He did it in 2017 for the first time with Antono, and then he did it with a Raving Beauty in 2018. And the folks are going to be thinking that he's going to do it 3 times in a row, the natural hat trick for Chad Brown. He's got Rushing Fall. He's also got Environs, as you can see, and Rushing Fall has been spectacular. She's raced 8 times. She's won 7. She's been second on 1 occasion. This was her first start of the year, her only start of the year. It was at Keeneland in the Grade 1 Jenny Wiley, April 13th. She got the lead. She never looked back. She went wire to wire. She has a win over the Belmont turf course. She can go to the lead. She can rate. It doesn't matter which turf course, if it's Keeneland or Del Mar or Belmont, she generally wins. But I do think that Got Stormy, who ran a very good third in that race and then followed up with a great second, the Distaff Turf Mile, running against a major closing bias at Churchill on the turf on the 4th of May, has a chance to pull the upset. Here it is, Javier. He's looking to win his 4th. He's aboard Rushing Fall. He won for Chad Brown with Anthony. We mentioned her in 2017. Coffee Click for Lynchy in 2014, and CS Silk for Romans back in 2011. 4 to 5 on the line, might be your shortest prize favorite all day long at Belmont. They run 13. Rushing Fall could be your shortest prize favorite. I do think she's vulnerable. I do think Got Stormy, Gary Barber, Tyler Gaffalione, Mark Casse, they might win a different Grade 1. They think they're going to win, I think, on Saturday. The race after the Just a Game is the Phipps. As I go to Scott Hazelton, Scotty, it looks like on paper it's a match race from the inside between Come Dancing and Midnight Bisou.
Yeah, but don't ignore another filly, and here's a 20-time winner. We'll talk about her in a second, but you have to start the conversation with Midnight Bisou. She's been so consistent as of late, especially with no Monomoy girl in this picture of the Distaff division, and she's got that pace just to the inside, as well as Escape Clause, the other mare that I was referencing, who should be sitting just off of Come Dancing. And for Midnight Bisou, we'll show you her Grade 1 Apple Blossom win in just a moment when we talk Escape Clause, but she has course form. Back during her 3-year-old season, her follow-up to her 3rd place finish in the Kentucky Oaks was this, a 6th length powerhouse performance in the Grade 2 Mother Goose with Mike Smith, who has ridden her every race since then except for the Breeders' Cup Distaff last year at Churchill Downs. She could get the setup. She's got the class. She's at the top of this division. Midnight Bisou will be odds on against this group in the Ogden Phipps. But Escape Clause, a 20-time winner. She's won 17 stakes races, including the Grade 3 La Cañada at Santa Anita, and she just keeps getting better, according to her trainer, Don Schnell.
It's unreal. I've got to give my head a shake once in a while. I mean, I'm used to training cheap horses, and, you know, I've never had one this good, and she's outrunning her trainer's ability. As a 2-year-old, I thought she was going to be a good filly. As a 3-year-old, I remember one of the interviews I did, I said, I think she's the best 3-year-old filly in Western Canada, but 4-year-old, 9 in a row, you know, that just phenomenal. A horse can win 9 in a row. And then as a 5-year-old now, she seems to even be improving a little more. So it's just been unreal.
And this is a horse that is led by Don Schnell. It's a one-man band. He and his girlfriend, Linda, they rolled into town here this past Sunday with their horse trailer, their big dually truck, and Dave and Caton. They didn't want to park the truck at the hotel out here on Long Island, so they bailed on the hotel, and they have been sleeping in which is a very nice horse trailer. It's got living quarters on the other side of the training track, so they've only been about a mile from Escape Clause, and I promise you, over the course of the day, they probably haven't been away from her for more than 30 minutes as they feed her on average 20 to 30 peppermints per day. She is well loved.
Deserves to be spoiled.
I love those
she's
stories.
Doing so well.
I love those stories, and I think they're what make these types of racing weekends really more special. Moving to special, that guarantee in the Pick 6 on Belmont Stakes Day starts with the Jaipur. That's race number 6 on the program, midpoint of the card on Saturday. And I think one of the opportunities for feast or famine. You can either narrow it down to one horse, or you've got to go pretty deep in here, because you have, I think, one of the better editions of the Jaipur than we've seen in recent times. Now, horse is going for his 3rd consecutive win, but I think World of Trouble is going to be favored. Even money on the line at odds right now, 8 for 12 lifetime, 3 for 3 this year, and I also think perhaps controlling speed. World of Trouble just made it look easy in the turf sprint at Churchill, and before that had an equally easy win in the 7-furlong Grade 1 Carter. This horse just keeps going for Jason Service. Son of Cantharos is looking for his 5th consecutive victory, and he'll be trying to outrun them, I think, from the start. You want an option to the favorite, though. Disco Partner has won this race the last 2 years, going for an unprecedented third consecutive win in the Jaipur. He's 11 for 29 lifetime, a win machine. 7-year-old is still going strong. The son of Disco Rico did throw in a clunker last out, but if you look to his Belmont Turf Invitational, this was impressive. This was back in October on a good turf course that I had a little bit more give in it than I suspect the turf course will this weekend. It doesn't matter. Disco Partner doesn't need any one type of turf course. He runs his race. He's tactical. He'll sit a little bit off the pace, but when Irad Ortiz asks for it, he will fire. I'll mention that there is a mare in the field, Belvoir Bay, taking on the boys, and second start off the layoff. I think is eligible to improve. There are a few other options, Dave. A lot of directions you could go, but World of Trouble will be single on a lot of tickets, I think.
11 lifetime wins for Disco Partner, 9 of them on the turf here at Belmont. Let's go to Gabby. She's going to talk about the 3-year-old fillies in the Acorn.
Yeah, it's turned out to be an incredible race. Of course, we have some proven commodities with the likes of Serengeti Empress coming back off of her Kentucky Oaks win. But we also have some interesting up-and-comers. We'll take a look at all of them and start off with Serengeti Empress, who is coming out of that Kentucky Oaks victory. Now, historically speaking, horses who have come out of the Kentucky Oaks and returned in the Acorn, the past 2 years, it's been a successful move, even considering a horse like Monomoy Girl. But the interesting thing about Serengeti Empress, I think, is the turn back in distance. This is a filly, in my opinion, who definitely started to improve once she got added distance, especially to the 2 turns. She's a filly that has speed. She needs the lead. And when those 2 turns have come, she's had the ability to settle on the front end, just like she did in her Kentucky Oaks win. With the turn back in distance and with some other fillies who are outside who are equally as fast, in my opinion, and stretching out, she's going to have a tough time for sure. So I would say the pro for Serengeti Empress is that she's coming out of the Oaks win. She's got a good rail post, but the con is Guarana and Cece. Those 2 horses are very fast. Guarana recently broke her maiden at Keeneland over a soppy sealed track, but there was so much buzz going into this filly's debut performance. They had high hopes for her all along, so undoubtedly she did go on to win by over 14 lengths that day. And I'm not discrediting this performance. It was one of the most sensational performances we saw at the Keeneland April meet. But the track did change throughout the day, and as a whole, it was very kind to speed. We only saw 1 horse that made up any bit of ground on the main track, and this is a big step up in class for her. And there's another horse, Cece, guys. She's actually going to be my top pick in the Grade 1 Acorn for Mike McCarthy. I just think she's coming into the race well. She looks like she'll improve with added distance, and she's going to be up on the pace as well. So I really do think it's going to be a complicated situation for Serengeti Empress turning back to the 1-turn mile.
Well, that was a lot of talk about Grade 1 racing. That was only half of it.
There's
that
more.
was 4 of the 8. When we come back, we'll talk about the other 4 Grade 1 races, which will make up that guaranteed pick 4 that will be starting in race number 8 on Belmont Day. The Met Mile, we'll talk Woody Stevens. We'll talk more about the Belmont and the Manhattan as well. Welcome back. We are talking about Saturday's races, but remember on Friday, you got the money back special opportunities as well. All weekend long, Friday and Saturday, money back special, your first $10 win bet at tvg.com. You get your money back if you finish 2nd or 3rd, and that also applies in race number 8 on Saturday. That is the Woody Stevens and a stacked field of 3-year-old sprinters, and Chad Brown has a couple of really big chances, including a horse making a comeback, Complexity. This is a 3-year-old colt by McLean's Music, who won the Grade 1 Champagne right here at Belmont Park last October, went into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile against Game Winner as the 5-2 second choice, and it wasn't his day. He was bumped to the start. We haven't seen him since, but I think sprinting is really his game. He just was able to dust the field, opening up a 5-length lead in the Champagne before beating Code of Honor by a comfortable 3-length margin. Call Paul's turned out to be a nice one as well from this race. So to me, Complexity making his comeback here, training exceptionally well up the Saratoga training track for Chad Brown. Jose Ortiz, he's been on for every start, and he is back. So he's going to be my top pick in the race. But if you're looking for a long shot, look no further than Wendell Fong, who was racing at Laurel against the likes of Always Mining early on in his career, fourth in the Miracle Wood, and then he left Laurel, came to Belmont last time out as an unknown horse, went off at 8-1 in the Gold Fever, and all he did was win, drawing away by 2.5 lengths. And this was a sloppy track. Comment line was erratic late, so he's probably still figuring a few things out. Lightly raced, only raced 4 times, but here comes Wendell Fong to run down Call Paul. Call Paul has since come back and won again. All of a sudden, it goes from neck and neck to winning by 2.5 lengths. Just absolutely kicks it in late and pulls away for the victory. He's 10-1 on the morning line. I think he is the real deal. So that would be the long shot that I'm looking for in the Woody Stevens. Right now, let's go back to Gabby. Many people think the best race of the day is the Met Mile. Would you agree?
I would 120% agree with them, Dave. This race, year in and year out, has always been my favorite race, but this year in particular, I think it stands out amongst all of the Grade 1s on the Belmont Stakes card. And just the depth of this race in general, I mean, we have the likes of McKenzie and Mitole. We've got horses coming out of the Dubai World Cup like Thunder Snow, even Coalfront, and the Godolphin Mile, and not to mention Frenzy Fire, who is good at this particular track. Let's take a look at McKenzie versus Mitole as a head-to-head battle, because I really thought that this race boils down to these two. We've got 6 wins for McKenzie, 7 wins for Mitole. McKenzie comes out of a victory in the Grade 2 Ali Sheba on Derby Day, and Mitole comes out of a Grade 1 victory in the Churchill Downs. Baffert sends out the likes of McKenzie, who won this race in 2017 with more spirit. Mitole comes out of the Steve Asmussen barn, who won this race with B Jersey last year in 2018. The interesting thing about these two as well is that McKenzie's turning back in distance. This has been a favorable move in the past. The past 2 Met Mile winners have gone at the mile and come back at the mile to win the Met Mile, but it's been difficult for horses to stretch out in distance, and that's exactly what Mitole is going to have to do. A horse hasn't done that since 2013 with Sahara Sky coming out of the Jerry Hollander for barn, so it's going to be an interesting matchup between those two. But talking about the Dubai World Cup winner in Thunder Snow, this horse put in a sensational performance last time out in the Dubai World Cup, and I know a lot of people talk about, maybe having some time after shipping out to Dubai and the recovery process coming back after a travel trip like that. But hey, you don't have to look too far back to take a look at 2016 when Frosted, a horse that we just saw earlier in the card, was absolutely sensational, winning the Met Mile by over 14 lengths and setting a new track record. So it's happened before in the past. Thunder Snow is going to be an interesting one to look out for as well. In terms of other horses who are coming out of Dubai and the Dubai World Cup undercard, we're talking about Coalfront. He recently won the Godolphin Mile, and I have no idea how this horse actually got up for the victory. It didn't look like he had a chance in the world at the top of the stretch, and somehow he lassoed in the winner, or the front runner, and got the victory there. This is going to be a big step up in class for Coalfront, but he's always been cut out to be a good horse. He's kind of been plagued by injuries before in the past, but he just, I think the biggest thing for him to overcome is not only class, but also that rail post position. So really, really looking forward to the Grade 1 Met Mile. I think this is a sensational race and arguably the best race on the Belmont Stakes undercard. So we'll see what happens there as we check in with more Grade 1 action with Scott Hazelton.
That's right, Gabby. Let's keep it rolling on to the turf course this time for the Manhattan at 1.25 miles, and one of the best horses not only in North America, but in the world right now, is Bricks and Mortar. This is a horse that missed some time, but since coming back in late 2018, he has done nothing but win, including the Grade 1 Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational, took a step into Grade 2 company at the Fairgrounds, toyed with that group, and then came back at Churchill Downs on May 4th to pick up the victory, running down Curbon, who we'll talk about in a second. But this Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational victory, fast-paced, yielding turf course, just simply too good. And he's beating the likes of Delta Prince, who we saw him come back and win a Grade 1 at Keeneland. Magic Wand, a really nice horse for Aidan O'Brien. But this is a horse that has a big opportunity to continue a role here in 2019 that puts him in the conversation and likely at the top of the conversation for Horse of the Year. I'd like to hear somebody argue against the fact that this horse is not the leader, at least right now in June, for that top vote for 2019 honors. And here's a look at what horses have been able to do, or horses that have been able to win the Old Forester Turf Classic as well as the Manhattan in the same year, something that Bricks and Mortar is attempting to do. Now, I mentioned that Bricks and Mortar ran down Curbon last time out, I should say, in the Turf Classic at Churchill Downs. Here's a horse by Speightstown who I thought was going to step up as far as going to a 1 1/8 and not have to chase the fast pace that he had in those mile races. And here's a horse, as we saw the fast pace that he was chasing in the Makers 46 at Keeneland. I think last time out, Mike Smith did not capitalize on an opportunity to open up on Bricks and Mortar and instead waited just a touch too long, which allowed Bricks and Mortar to kick it in further. I think he needs to open up when given that opportunity and put as much space as he can between him and the Grade 1 winner, Bricks and Mortar, as they spin for home or midway down the stretch or whenever that may turn out to be. My other horse in here that you have to respect, Robert Bruce. You may look at that last race and say it was awful. I argue against that. We had not seen him in months. He comes back, catches a soft turf course. He's very aggressive away from the starting gate. Ignore the stumble away from the starter bobble. That really didn't affect him. But I think the soft turf course got to him, and ultimately he tired. He finished fifth, beaten 5 lengths. He's proven at a 1 1/4. He should appreciate the firm turf course that he'll have to work with on Saturday. Do not ignore Robert Bruce because of this 5th place finish. Everything is working against him. Soft turf, tiring conditions, Dave, as well as a situation where he was coming off the lengthy layoff. I got to think that this race goes through Bricks and Mortar, but there is some depth to this Grade 1.
All right, Scott, thank you very much. And Scott, Maddie, Gabby, Caton, when we come back, I'm going to challenge you each to come up with a wager for the viewers out there. So think about what that will be as we take a quick timeout. Stay tuned. We'll have some bets to make on Saturday when we come back. We'll tell you all about it. Welcome back to the Belmont Preview Show here on TVG. Let's take a look at all the different wagers that we can make on Saturday and some of the different guarantees that are going to be in place. First of all, the Pick 5 starting in race number 1, a $500,000 guarantee. You can come back and play a Pick 4 again in race 2. The Pick 6 starts in race 6. That's a $2 minimum with a $500,000 guarantee. And then the Pick 4 in races 8 through 11, a $1.5 million guarantee. I wouldn't be surprised to see that double and see us get maybe even $3 million in that late Pick 4. So I'll challenge you each to a wager. We'll start with Scott Hazelton. You can pick anything on the whole day. What's it going to be?
I'm going to tackle what is being billed as the best race of 2019, the Met Mile. My day, Weaver, goes through Matoli. I'm betting at least $50 to win. I may go higher going into that Met Mile for this horse. There is no worry about distance limitations for the son of Escandrea. There is no stop in Matoli. He just keeps on getting better. He just keeps on going. That is the bottom line with Matoli. He wins the Grade 1 Met Mile, and I'm going to piggyback off of that into the Manhattan and use Robert Bruce, who I said needed that race last time out in the Fort Marcy. He's going to get firm ground to work with here today. And then, of course, Bricks and Mortar. But it is all about Matoli for me, Maddie, on Belmont Stakes Saturday.
That's a shame because Firenze Fire is going to win the Met Mile this year. But anyway, maybe the exacta, Firenze Fire over Matoli. I figured you want to start out good, right? You want to break with alacrity. You want to get that bankroll going. How about the Pick 5 on Saturday? The first Pick 5, $500,000 guaranteed, right? $40.50, 3 by 3 by 3 by 3 by single. First leg, mile of 16th allowance event. Shadow Rider for Rudy Rod gets paced to run at in pretty good form. Second to Candygram in his last start out of that race. Candygram Freak, 97 buyer, optional 62.5. Seafoam, second off the left, also coming out of a really strong race, dealing with the likes of Expert, a horse who consistently runs buyers in the high 90s. And then Potomac, he proved, I think, June 2nd, the March 30th race was not a fluke. He earned 100 buyer in winning the More to Tell March 30th. Then he comes back with a 97 in a 50 claiming event. Carlos Martin off the claim. I will not use the 5 principled. Is probably going to be your second choice. Race 2, 1, 4, and 8. Mile and a quarter. Maiden special event on turf. The 1 Overbold just ran a good third to value proposition. A Chad Brown runner. A lot of these horses in this race running well, being defeated by Chad Brown horses. The 4 No Man's Land. Good fifth in his last start. Yes, lost to a Chad Brown runner. They're probably going to be your 2 favorites. And then I'll throw the Mormon Mauler, very aggressive name, on the ticket. Little speed and fade for John Stevens, who has a couple in this race. He's got the 5 also in Seamast. Race number 3, the Easy Goer, $150,000 event. I am tossing, always mining. I didn't believe in him going into the Preakness. I think I was proved right after the result. I don't think he was being anything in Maryland. So I'm going to go with Dreammaker, the 2, who ran third to Mr. Money, had a very bad beginning in the Pat Day Mile. I've always thought this horse had talent. Grumpy Little Tots, the 3, completely missed the break in the Wood Memorial. Huge maiden score, 2 back, and the 4 Outshine. Also a bad break in the Wood Memorial, although not as good as Grumpy Little Tots. I'll make the 3 the top selection. Grumps Little Tots, I'll get it right. 4, 5, 7 in the Just a Game. The 7 Got Stormy, terrific second in the Distaff Turf Mile. There were 4 grass races that day. They were all won by dead closers. Digital Age was one of them on the turf at Churchill. Bricks and Mortar was another one on the turf. This horse sticking around to run second, huge performance. I'm going with the upset. Gaffleone for Mark Cassie. And then Gabby Gaudet, I will be singling Come Dancing. I'm going to go with the Now horse for Carlos Martin to get the jump on Midnight Bisou, get the lead and never look back. Third off the lap, minor upset in the Ogden Phipps. You're going old school. You're going pick 3.
I am, but Come Dancing single, I like that. It's a bold approach. Good luck, Matt. But I'm going to take a stab at the pick 3. It's an all grade 1 pick 3. And I thought that the Acorn was a challenging race because people will be paying attention to Serengeti Empress. I have fears with her cutting back to the 1-turn mile. We also have Guarana, who's kind of the up and coming filly, but this is a big step up in class. And then the 9 CC, who I think is the most intriguing up and comer. And the 8 Queen of Bees. This is a filly for Jorge Abreu. I know he had high hopes with her all along. She was disappointing in the 8 Bells last time out, but I think she can rebound if she gets out of the gate a little bit quicker. Race 8 is the Woody Stevens. I also thought a spread race going to be using several in there, including Honest Mischief. And my price play in there is actually going to be the number 7 Strike Silver. He's primarily raced on the turf since his 2-year-old season, which his 2-year-old races I thought were fast. So I think he's kind of an oddball in there. And then we get to the Met Mile. I agree with Scott in that it goes through Matoli. This horse has been so incredible recently. I think the mile shouldn't be any bit of a distance against grade 1 caliber types of horses, but I'm also going to be backing myself up with Mackenzie. To me, the road goes through those 2 in the best race of 2019 thus far in the Met Mile.
Well, that just leaves you and I, Kate.
I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm going the $2 pick 6.
That is a tough one.
Starts with the 6th race, all but 2 of the grade 1s. The Jaipur, I'm going to single with World of Trouble. I'm going to go deep. Acorn Stakes is one of 3 races that I really feel you absolutely must have coverage. I like Serengeti Empress, Guarana, and CC, using them all. Then the Woody Stevens. You could go deeper in here, but I'm taking a stand with Chad's other horse, Honest Mischief. Met Mile, I used 2 McKinsey, the 3 Matoli, the 7 Frenzy Fire, single Bricks and Mortar in the Manhattan, and round it all out with Intrepid Heart, War of Will, or Tacitus. If you want to spend more, add Master Fencer to the mix, your pick in the Belmont. That's a $54 ticket in the pick 6 day.
So 2 logical singles and 1 single where you're taking a stand with the 6-1 morning line horse in the Woody Stevens. That's race 8. That's where my wager is going to start. And that's the $1.5 million guaranteed pick 4 on races 8 through 11. I agree. Honest Mischief needs to be on the ticket. I prefer Chad's other horse a little bit better. That is Complexity, who's my top pick, but I'll use the 2 Chads. That's the 1 and the 4. Mind Control, you know, they were picking up a few Kentucky Derby points in the Jerome, the Gotham, and then they said, look, let's try to get him a graded stakes winning sprinter. They won the grade 3 base show at 7 furlongs. Now they're looking to take the Woody Stevens here. So I think that's really worked out for Greg Sacco and the son to Stay Thirsty now. Not trying to make him go further than a mile, keeping him here at the 7 furlongs. I'll use him, and my long shot play is Wendell Fong, 10-1 on the morning line from that outside post position. The Met Mile, so deep. Even I'm going to use Pavel, who's shortening up from those longer races with a hot pace. He might be able to get there at a monster price. I think the distance suits Mackenzie so well, but not willing to single with the quality of horses that he is up against. As we get to the Manhattan, I'm going too deep in there. Not only am I going to use bricks and mortar, I think Channel Maker, who's won his last 2 stakes here at Belmont, could pull off the upset. And then my 2 picks, Master Fencer and War of Will, to end it in the Belmont Stakes. So that is a $48 ticket on Saturday. All of those tickets will be available at tvg.com. And that's everything you need to know, not only about the Belmont Stakes, but about all of the Grade 1 racing we'll have on Saturday.
Get tied on. It is going to be a rollin', rockin' weekend. Friday has stakes action as well, and we mentioned some wagers that start on Friday and carry over to Saturday, including a pick 6. And then I think truly, as far as quality goes, one of the best, if not the best, days of racing on the racing calendar and that we've seen in recent times.
From top to bottom, 13 races on the Belmont card on Saturday, including race number 11, the third jewel of the Triple Crown, the Belmont Stakes, where Tacitus has the morning line favorite honors at 9-5. War of Will, your 2-1 second choice, and then a big gap back to everybody else in every race. On Friday and Saturday, you'll have money back special chances at tvg.com, not just on Saturday, but Friday as well. So take advantage of that. Your first $10 win wager in your TVG account, you'll get your money back if your horse finishes second or third on races that have 8 or more runners. If there are 6 or 7 horses, you need to finish second to get your money back. Thanks for joining us on the Belmont Preview Show. We'll be here for our live on-site coverage on Saturday for the Belmont Stakes. Who will it be? Tacitus, War of Will, or maybe one of the long shots? We'll find out. Thanks for joining us. For Matt, Gabby, Scott, Caton, and myself, Dave Weaver, we'll see you on Saturday for the Belmont Stakes here in New York at Belmont Park.